Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, and this is the Eve Universe Show. Let's see if I picked the right one. Close enough. Yeah, we'll go with that one. We'll stick with this one. Although I need to change this black thing to move it over here, because the chat is finally working again. Hi! Hi! Ah, man, it is Thursday. We have things to talk about, maybe. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I've had a heck of a day, or a heck of a morning so far. I'm tired. So we're gonna feel things out. I don't want to set the wrecking machine is not about having your stuff coming, right? Like, bring on the wrecking machine. It's about the disaster coming to you. Oh, right. I remember what the problem was last week. Or last time. No! Okay. Well, if this ends up becoming a problem, for those of you who didn't notice, because it only happened very quickly, my OBS already did one quick disconnect, reconnect. So that started plaguing us yesterday, or last time, towards the end. And I didn't realize that it would still be doing that. So I may have to go deal with that instead. Let's hang in there, okay? All right, I am in low-sec right now, and I'm in my Stratios. We're going to be doing some hacking sites, I think. I actually had something else I wanted to try out that I didn't get a chance to set up. Can the Turner event trigger some distortion in EveGate? I mean, it could, in theory. There's no reason why it couldn't. Create. Is this gonna work? Oop. And then if I go over here, I add a window. Hey. All right. I am going to take on the age-old challenge of attempting to explain the rule of 6 before we get much further. So we talked last time we did exploration. We talked about the rings and echoes and all those kinds of things. Let's try out my pen tablet for the first time on stream. What am I going to do with this? Can I bring it over here? No. All right, let's just leave it there. So to begin, yes, that is a big white box. To begin, let's talk about what the hacking minigame looks like, right? So in the hacking minigame, there is a series of notes, right? Like boop, 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 boop. Although it's not quite that much. Hold on. Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With one in the middle, right? And then there'd be like one there, and one there, and one there. And then maybe not others, right? Like it could be there, and then there. And we start right here, right? And then there's all these different like lines between them. Oop. I don't know if that's 100% right, but you know what I mean. All right, great. So, yeah, that's not quite right up there, but you get what I'm saying. So there's different lines. Oh, God, why isn't it showing anything? Why aren't you showing anything? Oh. All right, well, hold on a second. Let me. Nope. All right, well, that's cool. It's cool. It's fine. I thought you guys were just making fun of me because it was like, lol, lol, lol. He's such a bad drawer. I was gonna be like, but look, guys, I'm. Aha! It was all right. It was all right. Whatever. So the stuff up at the top is probably wrong. You can see it now. You should be able to see it now. You can see it now. But so we get what we're looking at, right? Like there's a bunch of nodes and they're connected by lines, right? We're going to focus on this one down here, this little bunch right here, okay? So this node here, let's use purple. This node right here, this one is like in a corner. It's attached to 3 different things. 1, 2, 3, right? This one is on a wall. It's attached to 3 things. 1, 2, 3. However, this one in the middle that's connected to all of the rest of them, this one right here, this red one, it is connected to 1, 1. Ooh, that's a lot bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this pattern right here, this is what we're looking for, okay? This area, this is what you're hunting for as an explorer. You don't see, no. So what does that mean for this node right here, the one in the middle? There's that node right there. We know one of 2 things about it. It is either totally safe, so it could have totally safe is relative because it could have a cache, which could then turn into something bad, I think. But it could have a benefit. It could be empty. It could have something like that. But if there's anything there at all, if there's any defensive nodes in this green spot, that means one of these red spots next to it, one of these red spots the core is there 100%. Okay? So if there is a defensive node in a node that's surrounded by 6 other nodes, which are the maximum amount of nodes they can have, that means that one of those 6 nodes that it is adjacent to is the core. This is important because, of course, when we're doing the hacking minigame, there's a lot of, back and forth and all that stuff. But once you find the core, you're done. Like, that is your primary objective. So the idea is that if you see a big area with a lot of places, like if you go... you'll often find a pattern that looks like this. So like this path here, this part here is dangerous because each of these nodes could very easily have something and kind of break off that path. But if you see this area over here in your route, you know that this is like the place that you kind of want to hunt for, right? So if there's a whole bunch of areas here, like if it keeps going, no. then we can see that the following are rule of 6 nodes. This one is, this one is, this one is. So what we can do is we can go through this area, we cut through this dangerous area, or we come in through a different way, and then we bust into here, and then we get here, and we just kind of go down the middle, right? We avoid the walls. Walls are dangerous, right? These walls are dangerous, but the green dots are good. Why? Because it's like Minesweeper, right? You know how you click that one piece in Minesweeper and a whole bunch of places open up? Furious, I think you meant, what is it, Persian sign of resurrection or something like that? At any rate, so this allows me to do two things. One, it allows, yeah, we're not doing the +8 is bait. I don't believe in that one. At any rate, so these other spots, these spots are dangerous, obviously. But what we can do is, by clearing these 3 dots, not only does this clear out this area, but also we can see, when we click on it, we see whether or not there's a number, right? So if this one is a 1, and this one is a 1, then that means that we know that one of these 2 spots, one of these 2 spots, yellow's probably a bad choice. One of these 2 spots, nope, sorry, wrong, again. Correction. One of these 2 spots is most likely, especially if this is a 2, then that means that one of these 2 blue spots is something positive, right? So when you're going through the rule of 6 territory, you also want to pay attention to the numbers. You don't want to just click through really, really fast. You're looking for 2 nodes next to each other that both say 1, because that means that one of the other 2 is correct. Yeah. The problem with the before 8 it's bait. Hold on a second. Do we have any questions, by the way, about that? Was that a decent enough explanation for some people? Why are there capital ship Concorde issue weapon systems and ammo type? The Concorde ship lineup doesn't have any of the capital ships, so why not have that? Why do they have that? They don't have their own dedicated capitals. Yeah, exactly. The before 8 is bait is a general rule, or just a general guideline, rather. The thing about it, though, is like the rule of 6. The reason why I like to make a distinction between the two is that the rule of 6 is extremely unintuitive, but the rule is relatively simple once you understand it, and because of those, well, especially because it's so easy to identify, that makes it easy to falsify, right? The only reason why we believe in the rule of 6 is because several years went by without anyone coming up with a counterexample, not one. Whereas the before 8 is bait, every time I've ever heard it, at best is like most of the time, and at worst is this like convoluted set of rules and conditions that makes it so that A, it's probably not that useful beyond just a guideline, but more importantly, B, it's not very falsifiable, because people could have easily have stumbled upon counterexamples and not even recognized it because the rules are so unintuitive, right? Like I could just say, oh yeah, I've had plenty of times where I click twice and like there's the core, and you can be like, well, that's not on a wall, and I'm like, well, how do you know it's not, right? Like not everybody's paying attention to that one in the same way that everybody's paying attention to the rule of 6. So I do keep them separate. I generally speaking just say we head towards the opposite side of the map, right? That's my policy. Once again, not set in stone, but what I don't like is with the 1/8 is bait thing is that people will be like, no, 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 that's not it, because we're not at 8 yet. And I'm like, but what if it is? Yeah, I've definitely gotten a core two clicks from spawn. Yeah. All right. So all that said, let's go ahead and see if we can do some practical application. Finding sites today, finding the sites I wanted to do today has been rough. Hence the name of the title of the video, of the stream rather. Actually, I want to try one more thing. Hold on. Let me try something real quick since we're here. Since I got you here, I'm thinking about it. Let's do a new thing. Scroll in. Where's like paint? Where's the paint can? There it is. Does this work? Will this work? Will this work? All right, hold on. All right, ready? Oh boy. Oh boy. You ready? Oh, no, no. Yeah? Hey, it works! Sweet! Nice. I like it. All right. Well, that's something to play with at some point. Am I a programmer? Yeah. Oh, Aura sure is spiteful. Man, you know, originally Aura laughed at you when you died. She laughed at you and called you a clumsy pilot. At least 7 nodes from the start, but I've gotten it within 2, so that's not true. I don't know, man. I don't know, Rad. It's an interesting theory. All right. Yeah, I have this drawing tablet, so I'm going to be experimenting with this more at some point soon. Any rate, so I believe when you're doing these lower tier crappy hacking sites, you're going to want to go after info shards first, which is kind of unintuitive because info shards have the doodad that you're looking for. The rest of the data sites are usually pretty much garbage, unless they're a specialty data site like a ghost site or you know, like the Caldari one or event one. So these ones over here, right? These 3 sites, these 3 places right here, these 2 plus the one I just did. If I click on this, I see 5. So now I see 5 over here, so I know that nothing over here is good. So I'm going to head over here. Look, there's more rule of 6. So I can go here, 1 and 1. I actually went to the boundary there, which is dangerous, but I can go here because I know that it's supposed to be safe. So now this is a 1, this is a 1, so most likely this is something. Yay. But this was also a 1. So maybe this one? And this is a 1. This was not a 1. So that means this is a 1. Or this is something. And there you go. That's how that works. And like a good explorer, when I was landing to the site, I made a little warp pounce. So now I don't have to travel between the cans. You kind of always want to avoid traveling between the cans if you can. Just because that's how people kill you and it takes longer. Nuke from orbit. Nuke from orbit. I can't. Shit. No! That work? Yay! Okay. If you're doing relic sites, would it be worth salvagers? No. You use relics. You use relic analyzers on relic sites. The if you're talking about the wrecks in like wormhole space, those are Talakan wrecks, which are still opened by relic analyzers, and that's what gives the pieces that let you reverse engineer Tech 3 cruisers and such. See, there's no rule of 6 over here, so I started over here, so I'm hunting over here on the other side first. See, there you go. Oh no! Getting rid of legitimate people, letting. I assume it's legitimate people. No rules. Donnie, this isn't Nom, it's bowling. There are rules. So I'm gonna hold on. So now I gotta double check this, right? So this is a very dangerous node. Normally I would not want to take out this node right away, right? But if I go anywhere else, I could hit something scary. I could go over here. If I wanted to be like greedy. Nope, that isn't gonna give me anything. Nope, I'm just gonna bust through this. So because that one was something dangerous, I can now hunt. This one is going to be safe. So that means it's one of these two over here. So I'm going to go here. There it is. Well, good thing I was quicker about it, because otherwise I would have gone out of range, and then it would have been a problem. You feel like your skills are too high that you just click anything? I mean, that's true until you get up to like... The problem is that if you do a sleeper cache, not only are they the hardest sites to hack, but they also blow up or do bad things if you fail. So most of the time it's okay, but it's about getting it done quickly, and it's about getting those hardest ones potentially. So now I'm going to warp to the next site, and as I do, I'm going to watch the warp tunnel. Basically, pounce 2. So when I see the warp tunnel, it's going to go from AU to hundreds of thousands, to tens of thousands, to singles of thousands. And as soon as it hits singles of thousands, I'm going to hit submit. Okay? Hundreds of thousands, tens, thousands. Boom. Submit. Perfect bookmark every time. What's your scan strength? That's a good question. I thought they showed that somewhere on here, like, easily. Maybe not? Oh, because there's no probes launched. Of course. So if I launch probes, then does it say anything? Aha! There we go. 104. So once again, I'm going to go after the info shard first.
Warp drive active.
The only disadvantage of pouncing over burning is that you stuck in warp to can like 5 seconds, which can be enough time for the hunter to recalibrate his sensors if he knows what can you're warping. Hold on. That's even more true for if you're traveling, right? If you travel between the cans, that's when I catch people. Is I sit there, when I see probes on, I'll go and take my pounce and I'll cloak there and I'll watch them. And when they're going to their second or third can, I will warp down to that can that they're traveling towards. You can actually be super fancy and cloak when you go back and forth too.
Warp drive active. Warp drive active.
He can't target you while warping, so it's just safer, right? Well, the whole idea is that if he can see where you're warping to, he can cut you off. But the other thing is that, like, well, I'll put it this way. That requires them to be even more set up and prepared than you are. Which at that point, like, you're not going to be able to deal with absolutely everything. If somebody puts in a ton of effort and wants to hunt and does it exactly right, then chances are he'll at least get a shot at getting you. But I also like to just have the warp thing, because that way I don't even spend a second calculating which site I'm going to go to next or anything like that. It's just as soon as I'm done hacking, I'm instantly already in warp. And like now that there's another person here, I'm also cloaking in between my warps. And then as soon as I enter into warp, that's when I manually decloak. So that way, as I'm landing, my decloak delay is going off. And then I hold down Control and I do a bounding box around it, so that way I can lock it as fast as possible. All this Rule of 6 territory. Technically, it should be more over here, but I just wanted to... Oh, boy. There it is. Yes, relic sites are generally speaking more ISK than data. This is not a very good site. The reason why I'm doing it is because I went through this whole area scanning for the Caldari sites and found literally everything else. And so now, out of like spite, I'm running them all. Millions, hundreds of thousands, tens, singles. That one, was that one early? Was that one early? Nope, right there. You've been hitting nothing but ghost and Caldari sites? Awesome. I will say this. So I made it to a ghost site. Oh no, I didn't do it. I did it again. I should have brought a cargo scanner. Whatever. We're going to try to fight the rats today. Which means I might lose this ship, so... I ran into a problem where I didn't bring my cargo scanner, so I couldn't scan which can to hack. But the first one I hacked came with 3 splices, so I felt pretty good about that. They did increase the drop rate, though. So it could very well be now feasible to either do it as a team or bring or be ready to fight the rats. One of the things I found really interesting was that one of the patch notes suggested that the last can would just explode, which we didn't really have a problem with because we didn't get that far. Oops, excuse me. So you've got the 4 even ones, right? That's in like a square. Right? Like a square. But then there's one directly above it. If we find a ghost site today, I'll show you. But yeah, there's 4 evenly spaced cans. And the way you can kind of tell is because that's the way the ghost sites used to be. If you go, in fact, if you go through my YouTube, you'll find a video called what do you call, or what does it mean when there's 4 evenly spaced cans or something like that? Which is me being blown up in a ghost site because I forgot what was going on. I hadn't realized what was going. See, I know that's not a wall, but I mean. It's an internal wall. So the cans could be a ways away from each other, right? And so slow burning between the cans is can take longer, but also is far more predictable, right? If I was watching this site as a hunter, I could watch you go between the cans and I could guess which can you're going to travel to next just based on the layout of the site. But if I'm randomly warping to different ones, basically, you know, this is something that they taught us in the military, right? Like, oh, hey, look. So that means one of these is it. Once again, this is a rule of 6 nodes, so that's safe to take. This is a rule of 6 nodes, so that's safe to take. Hey, look. So the one thing you want to do is be unpredictable, right? Never go the same place twice. Never go the same way twice. Never hack in the same pattern twice. You know, whatever you can do to make yourself unpredictable. As soon as you become predictable, that's when people can get you. The Astero is good if you don't have enough skills. Because the bonus on the Astero is a roll bonus, whereas the bonus on like Covops is a skill bonus. So assuming that you've got like shit skills, the Astero will be a little bit better in that regard. But without a Covert Ops cloak, it is the definition of luxury to be flying around in one of them. 5. It's also really, really important to keep an eye on those numbers, right? Because the numbers tell you how far away you are. The biggest ones are, you know, like if you see a 5, that means you're in the wrong area, right? Like that's a pretty simple one. Is it worth running it without a cloak? I actually had a stream where I did it. But I did it just for like the sake of doing it. Because so what happened was people were saying that like CCP should not have given the Astero out in the NPE because it makes people think that that's what they should target. And so I proved that it was a relatively decent ship for a new player. And while I strongly prefer Tech 1 exploration frigates for Yeet exploration, the Astero is perfectly viable. In particular, if you're going to be doing like high-sec exploration, right, where it's safe, then yeah, why not, right? What's up, Solstice? Yes, if you're running an Astero in a dangerous area without a cloak is basically just spending 100 million ISK that you don't need to spend. Why didn't this reload? This is why I always bring 16 probes.
Warp drive active.
Which I didn't today. Now the Stratios is pretty cool. It's I like the Stratios because it runs basically all of the sites and stuff in HiSec and whatnot. Like I actually had a Stratios for a while that was I'd roam around HiSec to find combat sites and stuff like that. In fact, I had a little challenge for myself that I called the Sanctuary Challenge. Because I bought a Stratios, fitted up, and with just the Stratios, I got enough ISK to buy the Sanctuary skin. That's how I have the Sanctuary skin. Because, like, I like skins that mean something, even if it's just to me, right? So, like, yeah, I could have just bought the Sanctuary skin, but the fact that I set aside a challenge to earn enough ISK with the Stratios without dying in order to buy the Sanctuary made it so that it was a little bit more interesting to me. Also, it was like the only skin at the time, so that made it relevant. The Stratios looks very dirty. Yeah, this one's been out. God, all of the Garista sites. I swear to God. You're actively piloting spatially and temporarily aware pilot. You know, I was at some point looking for pilots who can actually think for themselves and don't require me. Have you ever watched how to operate in HiSec as a -10? How you operate in HiSec as a -10? I have not. I've not watched you operate in HiSec at -10. I know that's like totally a thing for people that is a lot of fun. It's a good way of being like that's the ultimate come at me bro, right? For the record, I am against the whole criminals not being able to dock thing, if that's where we're going. Or I mean outlaws. Aegis capital ship site. Well, at least it's fucking different. Oh, 2,200 bookmarks plus bookmarks in front of Boundless Creation. Naya. Well, I mean, that's fair. I get that you don't care about that, but I guess I was just saying, like, you're right. I was kind of anticipating where you might be going with that, but yeah, I just feel like, look, I like explanations that you can take a step back and look at divorced from all of the rest of the things and look at it from a high level and just be like, does this make sense, right? So, and I also, one of the things I talk about a lot in design is what I call the core fantasy, right? So, game mechanics, like, I'm not a real spaceship pilot. I'm not a real explorer, obviously. Not even from the context of the game, right? But this is giving me the core fantasy of being, you know, the sneaky guy who prowls through enemy territory and hunts for ancient relics. It's giving me that's the core fantasy of what I'm doing, right? A logistics, the core fantasy is being the savior, you know, a war, first person shooter, or one of those games that it could be the core fantasy could just be power, whatever. You got all these different things. I like to look at it from like classes, like is the core fantasy being a knight or being a rogue or whatever. Don't remember where I was going with this though. Hold on. Oh, right. So when it comes to outlaws, let's think about this. I'm just going to state a sentence, and we're all going to see whether or not it makes any sense, okay? Outlaws in Eve cannot smuggle. Smuggling is not a thing that outlaws can do in high security space anymore. Now, with everything else about that change being true, or whatever, or it doesn't matter, like, that's it. That's what I'm hanging my hat on. Smuggling is a thing in the game. Outlaws cannot smuggle. And that alone makes me feel like that mechanical change was wrong. Core fantasy of finding a haunted derelict ship. Yeah, we call this the Firefly fantasy, right? But you get what I'm saying? Like, we get so wrapped up on whether or not it's ganking or not ganking. It's like, wait a minute. If I can't dock while I'm in a ship as an outlaw, that means I literally just can't be a smuggler. What the fuck? Don't mind me if that feels wrong. Again, this is why you bring 16 probes, so that way when you pull in your or when you relaunch your probes, it automatically does the next set, so that way you don't run into that problem that I just had. Well, in lore, there's talks about smugglers, so maybe there's a point behind that nerf. That's fine. You know what? Tell you what. I'll make a deal. I'll make a deal. Ready? Make it so that outlaws can only dock in the boo book. If you even just carved out an opportunity for the boo book, then I'd be with you. But as it stands, a thing that we know exists in the game, in the universe, as a fairly popular thing in the universe, is not a thing that you can do mechanically. What is the difference between RSS probes and sister probes? I think RSS probes are a little bit stronger, but from my remembering, RSS probes are more of a relic of a bygone day. So there used to be a third kind of probe. But realistically, would the authorities want a potential outlaw or criminal to be able to dock? Well, no. But since when does smuggling have to do with what anybody wants to have happen? Another thing is, like, there's a precedent there, right? Like, one of the reasons why you can dock in stations all the time is because the empires, their agreements with each other is fairly tenuous, so they have to have these kind of like free, like, you have to give shelter or whatever. So I don't know, man. It just seems weird. It means that the outlaws must pay off DD tags. You're right. I guess you could have like secret identities. You could have your forged paperwork that you use when you go and hack or when you go and do smuggling. To me, they call the group outlaws, but then remove their capability of doing actual outlaw activity, right? Like in-universe outlaw activity, not just like ganking players. That's a meta context outlaw activity, right? But like, if you're going to be deemed an outlaw within the universe, you would think that you would want to be able to do outlaw-based activities, right? I don't know where this ring is taking me. I've lost complete track. What is this? Anyone who isn't a ganker who thinks that he can come up with a viable idea is wrong. I have heard there was like a thing on Reddit, or not on Reddit, on the forums, right? Somebody was trying to make up an idea about that. And I mean, I agree. I think that the biggest thing that we need to remember when we're talking about gankers, right? When we're talking about ganking and gankers and how to balance it and whatnot, I've said this many, many times, and people kind of chafe against it. So I'm going to explain it maybe a little bit better. What does a dotted circle mean? It's a ring. It means it's on the far end of the ring. Okay. Let's, let me see if I can draw this without ruining everything, okay? Think about how I'm going to do this. Ah! Sorry, I'm trying to clear out the Caldari sucks thing that I wrote earlier. Hold on. All right. Now bear with me, because I know what I'm talking about here, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to visualize it correctly the first time. All right. And I guess we're just going to do it directly on top of this. All right. So we have probes, right? And these probes are in three-dimensional space, right? But we're going to just go with two-dimensional space for ease and comfort, okay? That is not going to work. Got it. All right, hold on. Boom. All right. Okay, so you've got these kind of there we go. You've got these these two probes, okay? And well, yeah, we'll start with two probes. And I have a signature. Okay? Now, what the probe does is it goes and it gets the range. This is why it's called the range finding array, right? It gets the range. Let me actually scan this site first, so that way I can pull in my probes and call it good. So it's going to get this and be like, okay, well, this distance just for the sake of argument and for ease, we're going to call this 1 AU and this 1 AU. Okay? So both probes puts out a ping and they both read that the site is 1 AU away. Okay? However, the problem with that is that there's actually 2 points in space that are both 1 AU away from those two dots, assuming a two-dimensional plane. Okay? So for instance, this spot right here, that spot is also 1 AU away from both probes. So assuming that both probes assuming that we are probing on a two-dimensional space instead of a three-dimensional space, we have those two probes out, and those two probes both hit and get 1 AU of distance. That means it does not know which one of these two spots exists. That is an echo, right? But let's say we do the same thing in three-dimensional space, right? Now, there's actually, if we look at it from the other side, anything, this and this is also 1 AU away. This is like, sorry, not from the side, but you know what I mean. So what that means is that like, if we looked at it from like the three-dimensional point of view, which I don't know if this is going to work, but like there would be this ring of possibilities that are all, and this is the center point, that are all within 1 AU. At any given point, you could look, and they're all 1 AU from both of the probes. Does that make sense? So that's what the purpose of the ring is. The ring means that the probes hit it in such a point that there's a area of space in the middle there where all of the probes are the correct distance from the point. But the problem is that like, if you look at my probes, we'll find it we'll find the ring when we find it. But the majority of the ring, like if I have my probes like this, the ring, I should have gone with a different color, but the ring will be like this. Right? Well, this whole area of the ring is inside the heart of the probes, which means if it was there, I wouldn't have only gotten the, we're going to go 3 probes that managed to get a distance to make that ring. So that means it has to be here in this outer edge. Does that make sense? So that's how the probing works. That's why echoes and that's why rings exist. Also, my diagram is partially off the screen. Also, I use green. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Any questions so far? We good? So let's actually, deviation's different. Deviation's actually different, okay? Now, the problem here is, with deviation, is I have, let's say I now have 3 probes, okay? Let's actually just go with white, real big. So now I have 3 probes. 1, ooh, not quite. 1, 2, 3 probes, right? And I have a point. So this one this here is 1 AU away. This is 1 AU away. And this is, call it 2 AU away. Now, I should be able to get exactly where it is, right? Because if it was over on this other side, at the top, then it would not be 2 AU away from the top dot. So now I know, oh, I should be able to tell that that dot is where it is. However, that isn't quite the way that the probes go. Many people think, you might think that what it does is it figures out where the probe is supposed to be, or like the site, and then it just like picks a random spot over here, right? And goes, okay, well, now we're just going to show it here. But that's actually not what happens. What happens is that this probe actually reports one, oh God. Oh my gosh. Really? Okay, fine. This probe reports 1.2 AU, and this one reports 0.8 AU. The jitter is on each individual reading, and this one reports 2.1 AU. So when you do the math, it actually calculates it as a little bit too close to this one, and a little bit to the left one, and a little bit too far from the right one, and a little bit further from this one. So it actually reads it as being right here. Because this one is now 0.8 from there, 0.1, 0.2 from there, 0.2, 0.1 oops, 0.2, 0.1 from there, right? That is what the jitter is. That is what that's what causes scan deviation. Not on the final result, but on the results of each individual probe. And the reason why that's cool is because while the probes may respond with bad data, where they physically are doesn't change, right? So if I have how am I going to do this now? Got it. So if I have three probes, I don't know if this is going to necessarily work as an example, but we'll try it. I have 3 probes, and I have a spot, right? And let's say I have a 4th probe too, just for the sake of it, okay? Now, this probe reads 1 AU. This probe reads 1 AU. And this probe reads 1 squared times 1 squared equals the square root of 1. Shit. I don't know. Whatever this distance is, right? But this probe doesn't get it at all, right? So you only get a response from these 3 probes. Well, once again, we have an echo. And the other echo puts it here. It's going to show both. But when we look at the probe window, we're going to see the rings of the probes. And they're going to look like this. Or whatever, right? And so this thing right here is like right here, right? Like, or whatever. Actually, a better example would be if this probe is bigger. So there we go. So now this area right here, where the 3 cross, but the 4th does not, I know that it is within that dot, regardless of what the jitter says. And often this window of opportunity where the probes can form that kind of result is a smaller area of space. Maybe not for echoes, but maybe not for rings, but certainly for echoes. The area of space that it could inhabit is small. So it's actually so small. In fact, let's do it again. So I've got 3 probes. 1, 2, 3. And those probes have boundaries. What? 1. Oh God. 2, 3. Okay? And I get an echo. Okay? Just for clarification. I get an echo. It could be here, or it could be here, right? Well, if it was here, actually this is a bad example because of the crossover. It'd be closer to like here and here, right? But I digress. Yeah, that's actually a better example. Not here. So if it could be here or here, it's going to show it with a dotted line between the two of them, right? This is an echo. But the problem is that this spot up here is a valid spot, while this spot down here would not be an echo because it would have gotten a hit from this one, right? So there's only this finite area of space where that echo could be. And again, that finite area of space can be smaller than the jitter. So it usually means that, like, even if you've got good scan, or even if you've got really poor scan deviation and you get an echo, you can usually scale down twice. You know, if you've got really good scan deviation, you can usually bump down twice each time you scan. Well, if you get an echo, you can bump down twice, even if you have bad deviation, because you're no longer relying on deviation to know where it is. You're relying on the physical location of the probes and where they scan. Okay? Cool. Did I mute myself? When did I mute myself? I have no idea when I muted myself. I apologize. That was weird. I must have been when I was trying to... I must have accidentally did it when I was closing or hiding Krita. What's up, Ashived? I've never known how to pronounce his name. I might actually play some of his music since he's here. I'm not silent now. Was it a keep? Maybe. Oh, that could have been it. That could have been it. All right. So what I was saying is that what jitter really means is like rather than being, okay, this signature is within 1 AU away from the probe, instead it reads the result, this signature is within 1 AU, give or take 0.2, right? So somewhere between 0.8 and 1.2. So that information is what causes the jitter. So that's why knowing the way that the location, the physical location of the scan, and therefore where the scan can actually be versus not, and use that to basically use that against the information that you have of where it says it is to figure out where it could be, right? So like another good example is if a site, I'm going to have to find it in another system, but like let's say I was scanning down this site here, right? But it, hold on a second. All right, so let's say, just for the sake of argument, I get a point that says it's here, right? But it's like broad. It's like one probe, or it's from the very beginning, so it's a big red circle, right? That encompasses this whole area. In fact, it looks like this, right? Well, the thing is that we know that every signature occurs within 4 AU of a planet, right? So, see, within 4 AU. So by that we know that all of this area down here is actually invalid, unless there's another planet over there for it to be near, right? So if the probes are here, or if the big site is here, and the planet is there, and there's no other planets around it, then I know that it's actually closer to the planet than it looks. So I'm actually going to put the probes, like, here, and split the difference. Because I know it's probably closer to the planet than further, and because the site that it gave me was so far away from the planet, I know it's not on the other side of the planet. So then I do a probe right there and get a better lock-in on where it is, right? So the point here is that the tools that you do a lot of the processing for you and give you a lot of data, but it's up to you to analyze what that data really means, right? You need to combine your knowledge of the fact that signatures appear within 4AU of a planet with where it says that the signature is, to be able to guess the zone that the signature could actually be, right? Likewise, you need to combine the echo that you have with your foreknowledge of where the probes were to be able to determine what location was valid for the echo. Yeah.
Warp drive active.
What's up, Ken? I think I'm going to play an ad, by the way, guys. I'm going to play an ad, so don't skip it. That's how I get money. I'm going to be very boring until you guys get back. Just let me know. Are they gone yet? You're my favorite. Except for those of you using ad breaks or ad blocks. I mean, you're stealing money out of my pocket. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care. Just, subscribe. Then you'll be good to go. Or, I mean, become a member. Then you'll be good to go. Buy people without premium. I know, right? Wow! I said I was going to be boring, but I didn't realize that it was going to be... I didn't realize that it was not going to be boring. This is like a wormhole system. Jesus. So what I'm going to do here, because there's there's so many different signatures and they're so big ballooned, I'm actually going to do one big D-scan, or one big probe, to try to hit as many things as possible, even though it's not within, it's a 32 AU probe. Which this reminds me, are we back yet? There is no ad? There is no ad, only Zool? I thought I hit it. Whatever. Close enough. Okay, so... like this system right here, this is a lot of freaking signatures, okay? So how do we sort these things out? Well, this goes back to the RSS probe thing, by the way. There used to be a different kind of probe, okay? It was called a deep core scanning probe. Ash's word is being bad at keeping his word on being boring. I mean, it's my shtick. Yeah, I'll hide the anomalies for now. My problem with using filters, I'll be honest with you. The reason why I don't use filters much is because invariably I'm going to forget that filter is on, and it's going to mess me up. So it's easier for me to just filter out mentally the stuff than like I'm going to jump. Where's all the plexes? I can't find any plexes. Right? It'll be bad. At any rate, so. What you would do is, these deep scanner probes had these massive radiuses, like 64 or 128, or I think it was, AU. So these things were designed to cover the entire solar system in all but the largest solar systems, right? It was based on the idea that there used to be, I think, signatures that were like way out there. But the reason why these were useful was because... a site being hit by only one probe has a specific amount of how well you can hit it, right? Like the percentage of a hit that you get is based on how many probes hit, how close those probes are, and how narrow of a band those probes are scanning through, right? The smaller the band, higher probe strength, closer hit, right? But if we hit the entire map with the same probe, it's a uniform scan against everything, which means when the results come back, the percentage that it is scanned is directly linked to how hard it is to scan, to the point where I could actually pull up a chart and see what the percentages of all the sites were and know within like 1 or 2 which site each one was. Because different sites had different scan difficulty, which mean they came up with different results when probed by a core probe. So that was the old way to do it before Odyssey. And I want to say, I could be wrong, this could all be crazy, that the RSS probes were related to that. And then when that got removed, the RSS probes kind of became the bastard stepchild. If you want, it is powerful, but if you think about it nowadays, you know how you have like a level 3 data site? That's the equivalent, right? So the fact that you see a data site, but it's a level 3 data site, that tells you it's probably a Caldari outpost or one of these other things, right? That's kind of the same thing, right? What they did was they took those bands, and rather than making you have to use the deep core probe, it just tells you the difficulty of the scan signature, which allows you to roughly know what it is that you're looking at. If you can recover and leave one probe, will it still work? Probably, but you wouldn't be able to cover everything. And it loses its efficiency at some point. I am so tired of Karista statocytes today. Holy shit. Remember, exploration used to be a lot harder. Here's a great example, okay? So these sites here, there's there's all these different signatures. Well, the problem here is that this planet and this planet are both kind of equidistant to them. So I don't know which one it is. So rather than trying to like make a big probe over here, what I'm actually going to do is come here and put up a 4AU probe right over here. That way, if it's near this planet, it's probably going to capture it. If this doesn't hit it, then I'll go to the other planet and do the same thing. I got a couple things, but not these. What was that? Hey, Crazy Who, thank you for that. Yes, exploration used to be a lot harder. It used to be something that you had to practice at to be able to get good at, because you had to move each individual probe. Individual probers, we would bicker and argue about which probe formation was superior. Boom. There, see? Exactly. I scanned that one, now I scan this one, and while it was 2 scans, it would have been 2 scans either way, and there was a pretty good chance that it would have only been 1 scan, and this is already still tighter, and check this out. See this probe? See how it's a red ball, right? Well, the thing about the red ball is a red ball means it's only 1 hit, right? Because a red ball means this one probe, this probe that's in the ring, saw that this site was within a certain range and guessed that based on that, it had to be somewhere within this area. But the issue is that everything besides this little sliver over on here, all this other space within the sphere is bumpkiss. It wouldn't be a valid spot. So I can just move my probes right here, bump it down 1. Now, by bumping it down 1, I might still miss it. But remember, if I barely miss it, I could get another echo or ring, which is perfectly fine for me. And I get the ring. Okay? So now I look at the ring. If you look, this bottom part of the ring crosses through my probes. And the only part that crosses through a valid area is this tiny sliver at the very top of the arc. So we're going to move our probes to match and see how it works. Sorry. So rule number 1 of exploration. Oh my fuck. All right. So, now, these two, I'm looking for a different data site. So the fact that they're all Garissus is what's got me worked up. So these two are exactly the opposite, right? If these two were actually over in this quadrant, I would have had probably a better hit. So I'm actually going to go to the opposite side now and bump it up a little bit and see if I can find the other two. Oh, no scan signatures detected, which means it's probably lower down here. We'll see. If this isn't correct, then, there's sometimes that I give up and I just go back to being bigger. Yep, sometimes you don't know what you're talking about. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong per se with Garissus data sites, but when you're explicitly looking for Caldari outposts as data sites, and and you get 3 in a row in 2 different systems, it becomes a bit sad. I firmly believe that Alera is taking all the sites right in front of me. I could do a relic site. I swear to God, I'm going to do a relic site out of protest. All right, so this signature. Again, I'm a little bit off on this one. A, because I'm guessing that it's closer to the planet than it looks, but also B, if it hits a ring or an echo, I don't mind. But I don't get anything. All right, well then, let's see where it could be. So if I go to 2 AU, or 4 AU, so it could be like up here. Although if it was there, then it would have found it just now. So let's cheat it over a little bit and see if that works. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll have to bump it up again. We'll see. Is it profitable? Yeah, it very well can be. Boom. Not exactly what I wanted, but good enough. Now, this is actually an interesting result, because if you look here, I'm pretty sure if it was really where it says it is, it would not be a dot, right? It would be a ring, I think. So I'm actually going to assume that it's in the area above it where there's better crossover. Yeah, generally speaking, you want to do relic sites in nullsec and wormhole space, and data sites in high sec and low sec for a lot. I'm not angry, you're angry. All right, I'm going to provide some good coverage, try to get as many of these things done. How do you get your inventory to be a list? By going to the list button. So now I've got a good hit and I've also got a ring, but the rings are the ones that are based on your probe position, so I'm going to do the ring first. Oh shoot, hold on. So I'm actually going to have to leave also a little bit early today, earlier than I have been. Um, basically, I'm going to have to get off when I normally say I'm going to, as opposed to when I have been getting off, because I have an appointment then. So we've still got another 2 hours? No, 1 hour. I'm gonna put on some of Ashiv's music, because A, I really like it, but B, he's here, so I think that he deserves more attention. We're gonna start with that. There's his YouTubes. Where's your music? Do you have a playlist for it? Man, I'm trying to like talk you up, and now I can't find your stuff. Your organization. No, I'm just kidding. There it is.
Heave ho, thieves and beggars, never shall we die.
I am being warp scrambled.
Whoa.
Just shows that Echo's content creators have made it so that we need to step up our game, like seriously.
Whoa. There once was a ship in the dark space, everybody called her the Dominus. Lula up and bow dip down, oh god, my bullet drones go. Whoa. Soon may the bounty come to bring us its complex income. One day riding is done, we'll take our leave and go. It had not been 2 minutes from bay when down it on a ganker lay. All hands on deck and the pilot brought his warrant to survive the downpour. Soon may the bounty come to bring us its complex income. One day the riding is done, we'll take our leave and go. Quick to see and try to flee, disruptor screaming, then caught shield. Warriors running, boosters on when shield tags dive down low. Soon may.
I'm just glad this is being recorded. My pain is being recorded, okay? Oh, damn it.
The bounty come to bring us its complex income. One day the riding is done, we'll take our leave and go. She can't feel free now, she feels dread. The cloud was above the captain's head, but he was in the Federation.
I'm already fucked. It's a level 2.
Soon may the bounty come to bring us its complex income. One day the riding is done, we'll take our leave and go. 40 minutes or even more, the armor went slack, then tights once more. Drones were lost, there was only 4, that ganker was uncalled for.
I'm going to scan this down and I'm going to take a screenshot because this is nonsense.
I have heard the fight still roam, the pirates still there in smoke and bloom, but all good times must end in doom as the ship tank failed and boom. Soon may the bounty come to bring us its complex income. One day the riding is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Shh, shh. Is this you? Yes, this is still you.
As I fly through my nozzle while I'm looting the wreck, I take a look at my fit and realize it's not the spec. Cause I've been tweaking and messing with bombs that Even my FC thinks that my mind got blown. I have never tackled anyone who didn't deserve it. We be feeding up together, I know it's our turf, but you better watch who you're stalking.
Whatever, I'm fucking running him. I don't care. Whatever. Whatever.
I really hate to trip,
Whatever.
but I gotta sell. For the jump to where you're right.
Whatever.
I fly solo free and everybody here can see that I'm the
Hey!
and I always say yes to freebies. Been spending most my night.
So, excuse me. Thanks for the super chat. Does Wormhole Space need a revamp, or is it good? I'm going to first start that by saying that, like, it isn't an either or, right? Like, nothing is without cause for improvement, right? Like, everything takes iteration. That being said, the principal complaints that I've heard about Wormhole Space, also caveat, while I have lived in Wormhole Space off and on, or rather had territory in Wormhole Space, I haven't like lived in it for very long. And I'm not a wormholer, by the way. So, but I have talked to several, especially during like FanFest or the CSM interviews and stuff. And the thing is that a lot of the biggest problems with Wormhole Space, at least as they were defined before, have been solved, right? The use of filaments, the fact that the Marauders can now be scrammed, and various other things. So I know that the structure change, the medium structure change, was taken as kind of a serious blow to Wormhole Space. But I haven't really heard whether or not that has manifested as a real problem yet. I'd actually have to talk to my wormhole buddies again to find out like how things are going now. I do know that a lot of the people who used to like wormholes, or a lot of the groups that used wormholes as like the idea of like content on tap adjacent to everywhere kind of concept, have dabbled in Pockvin. So there has been a bit of a distribution of the population in that sense. But at the same time, that also could potentially open up new avenues for Wormhole Space. One of the, like, wormholes have blue loot, and they have PI, and they have moon mining. Now, wormholes can do reactions, and wormholes have R4 moons. So in theory, you kind of have this closed loop where you could do R4 moons and then reactions, which is what's needed for battleships and all that stuff. However, in practice, that can be extremely dangerous. And ultimately, there are usually better ways of making money in Wormhole Space than R4 moon mining. So that ends up not being what they do. So most people are just running sites. I would say if there's anything wrong with Wormhole Space, it's that the sense of mystery has kind of been lost, and the puzzle box has been, people have lost track of the puzzle box, right? There's all kinds of little mysteries and little doodads and things that pop up when you get within proximity or whatever, that kind of help you unravel the wormhole universe. But it's all been so static for so long that it's no longer interesting to people. So as far as like being a place that people can live, probably fine. Being a place where people can make money, probably fine. Being a place that really captures that core fantasy of like exploring the boundaries and looking into this alien weird civilization and everything involving that, I think that they could really revisit that. Especially with everything going on with the Triglavians and the Drifters. It feels like maybe not even like completely redoing it, but advancing some of the stuff that's been going on, or just anything that could bring back attention to that stuff, I think would be useful. But as far as like what everybody else thinks about Wormhole Space, I would expect it to be in a pretty good place right now. I know that the frigate hull change was a big deal to the positive for Wormhole Space. So I don't know whether or not that's like solved all the problems or whatever. Hey, Dutch. Oh no! I got you killed? Sweet. Hold on. Ready? We'll do this. What were you in? A heron. Okay, good. All right, cool. I almost drew on my whiteboard on this thing with this. That'd be bad. That'd be bad. So we're gonna go. There. Can you guys see that? Is that good? I've got a kill mark now. It's right there. maybe it should be a little bit lower. Put it down there. There you go. There's your kill mark. Yeah. If you want to join our group, just go ahead and head on over to our Discord and our website. We have an application there. You got to link your Discord to the website, and then our dudes will come and take care of you. If they don't, go ahead and bug me. Also, if you're interested in getting like notifications about my streams, I do have a public space in that Discord that you can add yourself as a. We're going to call this Pane 1. You can add yourself as being. You can flag yourself with YouTube, and then when I go live or post my videos, you'll get a ping. So the way it works is that data sites have the best like special stuff, but relics just have the best general stuff, right? So that's why, like in low sec or null sec, relic sites are considered better because in general they have the stuff that's actually like worth stuff. But in high sec and low sec, often the data sites can be better because they have the particular special things. Either special kinds of sites or whatever. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. We were supposed to have a meeting about that. We can probably knock that out today. Oh, yeah. It's a relic site. Oh, no, don't do that. I might as well do the relic site because this ship has. Oh. Is this how this is gonna go? Is this gonna be the rest of the stream? Is me becoming increasingly disappointed in this system? That's good. Head on a swivel, my friend. Situational awareness and all that. In the military, in basic training, when they made you do push-ups, like if they like, especially if it was like a punishment or whatever, but if it's just normal push-ups, they could do it one of two ways. They could do it in cadence, which means they go 1, 2, 3, and you go 1, 2, 3 along with it, and you have to count with it. But the other way to do it is they can do it manually. They can tell you to go down and up, right? Down, up, whatever. And so, like, every time they say down, you have to yell out, attention to detail. And then every time they say up, you have to yell, teamwork is key. It's like everybody in the whole crowd. Down, attention to detail. Up, teamwork is key.
Warp drive active.
I bring that up because those are lessons that I think EVE players could use. What would be the equivalent of EVE Online's do push-ups? I don't know.
Warp drive active.
We're just going to squirrel this over here so that way it doesn't pop up over and over again. Or between 2 stars back and forth for hours. There you go. To the sun! To Moon 1! To do the sun! I don't know, whatever.
Warp drive.
It's actually ejecting out of your ship and then getting back in. Which I do have a video about. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it probably has something to do with this is a terrible idea, never do it. But basically I show how you could have a magnate in your frigate escape bay. And then when you're done with like a mission, you could actually hop out of your battleship with the magnate, lock the battleship so that way nobody can jump in it, and then proceed to like salvage and stuff. You can also use that to, like, if you carry extra ammo in your magnate, you can jump out, jettison the ammo, hop back in, and then scoop the ammo. I don't think rats scoop loot. The only rat that scoops something that I can think of is the Autothysian Lancer scooping corpses. Which that's always fun. We should try that sometime. We should go get a corpse and then go find some Autothysian Lancers and see if we can feed the Lancers. By the way, here's a fun aside. I don't think I talked about this the other day. Or I don't think I've talked about this on stream. I've talked about it quite a bit off stream in the last couple of days because something struck me. If I did talk about it on stream, let me know. But the word Autothysian Lancer actually stands out to me as being kind of odd. And what's weird is that it didn't stand out to me as being odd for a long time. It wasn't until like literally last week. What's up, Ailcard? Yeah, the if you drop a corpse into space, the Autothysian Lancers will move over to it and scoop it. That's why at the end of the Emergent Threats trailer, you see the corpse being pulled into the sleeper wreck. It was like one of its first behaviors. In fact, that's the reason why everybody thought that they aggressed if you had a corpse in your cargo bay. That's not true, but people used to believe that. And that's well, actually, a lot of people still believe that, but that's why. It's because they actually have a behavior where they chase after corpses to scoop them. So, first of all, what I find interesting about Autothysian Lancers is that they weren't originally named Autothysian Lancer. This is kind of a funny story too. The way it happened was this is a great cautionary tale of game development. You know, people like to say that, oh yeah, it should be voice acted or whatever. Well, here's the problem with that, okay? So this was during the Inception MPE, okay? So the Autophysian Lancers, also at that point known as Circadian Seekers, had come out maybe about a year prior. So they were still, like, the whole idea of like the Circadian Seekers and the Drifters and all that kind of stuff, like that whole story was still pretty new and developing when they came out with the new Inception MPE. This is Pain 2. And in the Inception MPE, it's completely voice acted, right? And we got it to test it like a month or so, maybe before it even came out, right? Oh no! Did I do that wrong? I think I did the first one too early. Maybe the last one too late? No. Never mind. They're both perfect. So, at least I think they are. We'll find out. Yay! In the NPE, you deal with the drifters and the sleepers. So it tells you, in the NPE, it has circadian seekers. But in the NPE, you kill the circadian seekers. They're not that hard. And so one of the things that came back as feedback to CCP when the new MPE, when we started testing the Inception MPE, was like, hey, CCP, you're teaching people that these circadian seekers are like deadly. Hey, look, Rule of 6. You're teaching these people that or not that they're deadly, but that they can fight them, right? That circadian seekers aren't deadly. So they're going to kill them in the MPE, and then they're going to leave, and then they're going to find some circadian seekers on a gate or something, and they're going to think that they can take them on. And they're wrong, right? And so CCP said, oh, crap, that's true. That does create kind of a confusion between these rats that are super easy tutorial NPCs and these rats that are super hard, nasty NPCs that have the exact same names. So, and it's bad enough that the Circadian Seekers look red on the overview, even though they're not going to attack you automatically. So, much confusion, very bad. Wow, right? Well, the problem was that the voice acting for the Inception MPE was already completed. So, in the voice acting, they refer to Circadian Seekers. They couldn't get that re-recorded. So, rather than fix the MPE, they had to change the name of the Circadian Seekers that already existed to Autophysian Lancers, because they couldn't change the ones in the MPE. And that's why they're called Autophysian Lancers now, and they used to be called Circadian Seekers then, if you ever wondered that. Yeah, that's right. Dropping a bunch of corpses for drifters to pick up. But if you're at the Jove Observatory, they'll attack you on sight. That's true. They do not attack you if you have a corpse in the hold. They do not. No, Solstice. They do not attack you if you just have a corpse in your hold. This is a myth, and as near as we can figure out, it was never true. It's just one of those things that I guess nobody, like, enough people accidentally had things. Like maybe they got hit while at the Jovian Observatory or something like that. And nobody, or maybe it just got confused between the two. And then nobody ever tested it, really. If you aggress on them, then not only do they attack you, but they call in their backup, which are the drifters. Yeah, that's how rumors spread, exactly. how do you collect corpses? Well, you see it in space, and then you scoop it. You can't see corpses in space on your overview by default. You'd have to add them to overview, or you can, like, I usually go to the cheeseburger menu at the top right of the, or the, I guess the dots at the top right of the overview now, and go to show all brackets. That'll allow you to see them in space, even if they're not on your overview. But you can actually see, oh wow, speaking of corpses, there's all these meat popsicle frozen corpses in this relic site. That's pretty funny. Turns out I'm surrounded by corpses here too. But all right, here's the thing about Autothysian Lancers. Okay, let's start with Circadian Seekers. The word circadian kind of stands out, right? Like a circadian is like the circadian rhythm, for example. Which is your pattern of sleep. And this is consistent with what we know about the sleepers. All of the sleepers are pretty much, I'm pretty sure all of the sleeper rats are named after something involving sleep, right? Hypnosian warden, aroused Hypnosian warden, restless defender, all these kinds of things, right? It's all about sleep and resting and all that kind of stuff. You can sell corpses. You can't sell corpses on the market because they're non-fungible, but you can put them on the hypernet. And depending on the corpse, it can be worth a lot. How do I know it's not a thing? The corpses thing? I've tested it. Marcus, who is often in chat here, tested it extensively. Once he heard that it might not be true, he kind of got upset about that. And so, like, went there and just, like, had a bunch of corpses and Antikythera elements and all that stuff in his bay. And he just started ramming into Autothysian Lancers, trying to get them to engage based on anything else besides actually aggressing onto them. And they wouldn't respond. So, and I talked to Makoto Priano about it. He's the one that tipped me off that this was a real, like, it was probably never true. Because, like, they had tested this quite a few times in the past. And so, like, Arataka Research Consortium internally was pretty sure that it was never true. But it didn't stop the rumors. Yeah. So, why does any of the things matter about the sleeper names, right? Well, Autothysian Lancers doesn't have anything to do with sleep. It's against the pattern. Now, one thing that's worth noting about the Autothysian Lancers is that they have a unique design, right? They have a new ship type, or like a ship model, right? Different than all of the other sleepers. And this is kind of important because it calls attention to this fact in the description. This represents a change in the sleepers. It's a new kind of scout drone, basically. And, Circadian Seeker made sense. It was out seeking things. They were the first ones to go around and hunt for stuff. Autothysian Lancers seems a lot more out of place, right? But the whole thing here is that the Circadian Seekers, Autothysian Lancers, are not normal sleepers. They actually are sleepers that are in cahoots with the drifters, specifically. In fact, the sleepers that have the same model in the Abyss are known as Ephialtes. And Ephialtes was the, I believe, Roman senator that betrayed Rome to the Persians. He's popularized in 300. He's the ugly hunchbacked dude that betrays Leonidas. Like, that is Ephialtes. So to that culture, Ephialtes is like the symbol of treachery. And here that is the name of these things in the Abyss. We also have a good reason to believe that the drifters and the sleepers, at least initially, were not friends. That the drifters have now like taken over the construct and subjugated the drifters or the sleepers. But it's very possible that some of them have chosen to side with the drifters. And so the idea is that is what the Circadian Seekers are the sleepers who have been taken in by the other and now work for them. CCP in the early days of the lore stuff, I remember at Eve Vegas, at the lore panel I referred to drifters and seekers as being in the same faction, and I was corrected very specifically that they are not part of the same faction. They are not the same thing. Sleepers and drifters are not the same thing, but they are two things that are working together, two groups that are working together. So the Circadian Seekers and the drifters are not the same group per se, but they are working with each other. So all this to mean, well, what am I bringing this up for? Well, when I look up a name, I just Google the name, right? Names have meaning in Eve. So I looked up Autothisian. Autothisian doesn't give you anything, right? But, hold on. It's also worth noting that the word Autothisian is spelled kind of weird. It's spelled like this, which gives me, which is already kind of a red flag, right? Now, it's also worth noting that, before we get too deep into this, that the naming convention that the drifters use in particular is in parallel with the naming convention that the Jove use, which is Greek nomenclature, right? Like Tyrannos, Apollo, Cassandra, right? All of these things, Lux Cantos, like these are all Greek things. Greek and Roman, I guess. No, it's Greek, I think. Maybe, whatever. Either way. So, Autothisian Lancer. Autothisian does not mean anything. However, the word Thisian does. So we could assume that whatever Thisian means, Autothisian means like the automatic version of that, right? Seems like a pretty good guess. Thisian means to sacrifice. So Autothisian Lancers are the auto-sacrificing Lancers. I don't know what that means, but it means two things to me. One, it means that the Autothisian Lancers are explicitly there to be bait, right? They might as well have just been named like Bait McBaiterson, right? Like, that's its job, is to go out and be killed for everything else. The other thing it means is that it's using, rather than using a sleep-based name, it's using a Greek-based name, showing a tighter allegiance between these Circadian Seekers and the Drifters, right? So that's really interesting. There is one other piece to this, if we really want to keep going down the tinfoil, though, which is the actual the realm of the sleeper space itself, right? The name of sleeper space, i.e., wormhole space, is actually Anoinkis, right? And it's really interesting because, like, where the word Anoinkis comes from, we're not 100% sure. I don't think they ever actually refer to it as Anoinkis in game. And I think in some of the chronicles, I think, what's his name? Highland Tukos refers to it as Anoinkis. But interestingly enough, one of the times that CCP Dropbear was talking about this, he actually refers to Anoinkis, and he kind of like cheekily corrects himself, like it was some sort of slip of the tongue, like it was a clue, right? But what Anoinkis means is programmed cell death. In other words, like, your body, to prevent cancer cells or other rogue elements, basically there's a command in your cell that says to self-destruct. And that process is known as a noikis, right? So the territory itself is named after programmed cell death, which is interesting on its own right. But the new denizens that are coming from there are called auto-sacrificing lancers. I feel like there's like this theme coming up, right? Apoptis. Hold on a second. A noikis is a form of programmed cell death that occurs in anchorage-dependent cells when they detach from the surrounding extracellular matrix. So it's specifically cell death that occurs when a cell becomes detached from the rest of the whole. The difference between apoptis is the predominant type of programmed cell death, which may occur in response to irreparable damage to DNA or in response to induction by inflammatory cells. A noikis is a subset of apoptis, which occurs in epithelial cells in response to detachment from the surrounding matrix. So, seems a bit weird, doesn't it? There kind of seems to be this theme. I don't have a total beat on it yet. Yeah, it's another form of sacrifice. In fact, it's another form of self-sacrifice. Autothisian. And yes, names in Eve are incredibly symbolic. Incredibly symbolic. Some of the older stuff, less so, but man. Like the Empire ship names and stuff are kind of a little bit scattered. But especially like newer stuff. Especially characters' names. A good example is our good old buddy Seriatim Foucault. Sub-commander of the Integrer pro-Kybernaut or pro-Triglavian Kybernaut force. This is why I keep on making the joke that really all of this lore stuff is just CCP trying to trick me into reading like socialist propaganda or, you know, other works. See, that was 18 million in that one can. That's why Relic sites are decent. Yeah, we were talking about sleepers and the Autothisian Lancers, the Drifter wannabes. The Sleepers are not an AI robot faction, actually. They are... that's the Drifters. So... Whew, all right. You know what? I'm just... Should I play the video? Should I play the... Would you like me to play the video where I, like, pulled together all the information, made it into one edited thing, or do you guys want me to, like, stagger my way through it again? Nice, Spoons. Rodin Shipyards names after Greek gods, Creodrone and Duval Labs after Mesopotamian gods. That's a really good point. Oh shoot, I forgot to make my bookmark here. Just link the vid? No. Here, we'll watch it. I put a lot of work into this one. I was actually going to re-upload it onto my YouTube, but in the meantime, I got it on, it's on Talking Stations. Let me get this bookmark correctly. Pane 4. Remember, guys, we're doing these sites out of pure spite. Okay, here we go.
Enjoy.
By 2730 AD, nearly 21,000 years before the modern era, the human race had colonized its home system of Sol.
Within 5,000 years,
Humanity had stretched out to consume all resources within the range of their warp drive technology. Near the end of the 8th millennia, a miracle came to the human race in the form of a semi-stable wormhole, which connected them to a previously undiscovered land of prosperity. Within a few short years, the largest colonization effort in human history began as countless souls poured through the Eve Gate and into New Eden. However, the fortunes of mankind took a turn less than a century later in 8061 when the Eve Gate collapsed, cutting off the colonies of New Eden Cluster from Terra. The cost was devastating to those remaining. Countless colonies were lost, and the very history of mankind faded into legend. Little is known from this prehistory, but we do know of the existence of 3 civilizations that held influence in those early days. The Yanyong, masters of gravitonic technology and force field theory, settled in the Detol region in modern-day Galente space, but all records of them end around the year 9000 AD. Unsettlingly, the remains of the Talakan Empire, which mostly are found in the mysterious Anoikis, a series of far-flung star systems accessible in the modern day only through unstable wormholes, seem to have also fallen from power at about this time. Of all of the ancient empires, the only one whom we have met in the modern era are the enigmatic Jovian. Being a relatively primitive civilization compared to their contemporaries, the Jovians survived the Eve Gate collapse by having their entire civilization loaded on immense arcs and shuffled at barely faster than light speeds. The majority of the population remained in suspended animation in a virtual reality environment known as the Construct. Those inside of the Construct used the time dilation of the simulation to rapidly advance their civilization beyond anything imaginable in the physical world. Soon, the limitations of reality were no match for this new civilization. To protect them from corruption and to ensure a tether to reality, a law was established in the early days known as the One Body, One Mind Law, which simply states that for you to have a consciousness within the construct, one must also have a physical body connected to it. This serves 2 purposes. First, it makes sure that each being inside of the construct was at least once human, but also the construct itself was eventually transformed to use the brains of those connected to it as part of its computational systems. Thus, removing the physical body would disrupt a part of the construct, or even take parts with it. Outside of the construct, the Jovians had gone through 3 distinct empires. The first collapse occurred when the highly engineered Elders began suppressing the biological experimentation of the other Jovians. When Michael Bohr reunited the Jovians in a second empire, they began performing increasingly bizarre experiments on themselves, causing both the Jovian disease and the formation of the sleeper civilization out of those living in the construct. The Jovian disease is not so much of an actual disease as an engineered defect in Jovian biology that causes melancholy, madness, and death to all Jovians on a long enough timeline. Eventually, the Jovians turned to those who lived inside of the construct looking for answers to the disease, and the only solution was to enter the suspended animation and join them within the construct. The conflict and disorder that came from this era is known only as the Shrouded Days, and no one, not even the remaining Jove, seemed to fully understand what happened in those days. What does seem to be true is that eventually those inside of the construct, now known as sleepers, fled the Jovians, eventually settling in what we now know as wormhole space, or Noikus. The remaining Jovians migrated to modern-day Jove space and continued to struggle against the disease as they monitored the younger empires, now only emerging from the Dark Ages. Eventually, modern politics, in combination with the uncontrollable disease, led the Jovians to retreat further and further from the rest of New Eden. But as one empire falls, another rises. Deep inside of Anoikis, separated from New Eden by unfathomable time and space, a violation of the construct was born. Without the shepherding of those outside of the construct, an entity which violated the one body, one mind law appeared within the construct. A small child with black eyes that had never been born and had never had a physical body. This thing was called the Other and was rejected and hated by the Sleepers. But this seems to have only fueled its desire to take over and consume. And over time, more of these defects were made.
Drive active.
A little over a decade and a half ago, in the year YC 105, the Empire of Amar was having their own trouble. The Emperor, Hadrian VII, ruler of Amar for 3 centuries, had died of turret disease on August 28, YC 105. The Amar Empire is ruled by a small handful of noble houses, each with a selected heir to head the house. When the time came, the heirs competed with one another in a process known as the succession trials. The winner becomes the new emperor or empress, and the losers must commit suicide in a ritual that is known as the Rite of Shathal Sin. So when the 5 houses competed in YC 105, Dorian Corazor was chosen and became Emperor Dorium II, but this did not settle the issues within the empire. Jamil Sorum, the heir to the highly militant Sorum house, was reluctant to give her life in the ancient traditions, and when she lost, conspired with her loyalists on a plan to cheat death. The very flesh of the heirs is seen to be sacred by the Amar, so the idea of cloning a body and mind of Jamil was against Amar scriptures, but this did not stop Jamil's loyal
like
follower
Rent.
Phallic Grange from secretly cloning her at the Matriarch Citadel.
Or Yule Conference, sorry.
These events had not gone unnoticed in Anoikis. The Other reached out across the cosmos and discovered the plot to illegally and secretly clone the failed heir to the Amar's throne. When her mind was transported to the Matriarch Citadel, the Other hopped on board and stitched itself into her brain. Once there, the Other whispered into the heir's mind, teaching her the secrets of ancient technology and revealing the location and function of an incredibly powerful superweapon, which she then used to defeat the Elder fleet of the Mimitar as they flew above Jamil's birth planet in Sorum Prime. The recent assassination of Dorium II had plunged the Amar into chaos, and Jamil's triumphant return had been deemed a miracle of God. This led to Jamil being crowned the Empress of Amar. After using the weapon, she discarded it to allow it to fall into the hands of the Road Drones, a hive that is also likely under control of the Other. A Sisters of Eve ship that was doing investigation on the Eve Gate, where the weapon was first found, traced the energy readings to the weapon's location. A Blood Raider group trailed the SOE ship and witnessed them being destroyed by the Road Drone hive. However, the Blood Raiders, probably through the help of the Society of Conscious Thought, or at the very least some Jovians, were able to disable the drones. The Blood Raiders would have acquired the weapon for themselves and brought upon an endless harvest of blood, if not for the valiant Thuckers, a tribal ship and crew who chose to sacrifice themselves to destroy the weapon rather than to let it fall into the wrong hands. The explosion triggered the Isogen 5 that was being packed inside of Jamil's ship and the hive surrounding it. This cache of Isogen 5 was one of several that was created by the pre-Dark Age empires and stored near certain stars. Isogen 5 itself is a super rare isotope of isogen that seems to only occur around certain blue stars and have unheard of gravitonic properties. To make matters worse, this cache was quantumly entangled with at least 9 other caches, which also exploded simultaneously. These explosions poured energy into the local stars, causing massive coronal mass injections, destroying the closest planet near each star. This is known as the Salian Incident, or the Apocrypha event. In addition to the shattered planets created by the explosions, numerous traversable temporal defects known as wormholes began appearing, leading people to discover temporary shortcuts between distant stars, as well as connecting them to the long-lost Anoikis. Still in partial control of Jamil, the Other pushed her to send her scientists into the uncharted space, breaching the sleeper conclaves and extracting the suspended bodies of the sleepers. They then used the sleeper implants to make their first immortal foot soldiers, the Templars. Inside of the construct, the Other used this chance to imprison rebellious sleepers and to send out copies of the Other into the minds of the Templars. Eventually, the dangers of the Templar was discovered, and most were purged. Most. Now partially freed from the construct, the other constructed massive hives and cracked open the sleeper enclaves, using the bodies itself to puppet them in order to control their newly developed warship, the Drifter battleship. Around this time, something happened that the other didn't expect. The stars we now know as Anoikis were stitched together by the ancient Talakan. They did so by constructing a Dyson swarm lattice around stars and using the energy to punch holes into reality and traverse them using static gates. One such star, W477 TAC-P, is located in what is now Jovian space. The explosion from the Isogen 5 caches sent energy through the network, pouring into W477 TAC-P and damaging the lattice around it. Several years later, in YC-117, W477 TAC-P exploded, causing an even larger event, blowing open the inner chambers of Anoikis and leading the Drifter forces to pour into known space and began exploring and dismantling the sleeper caches and Jovian observatories that had up until this point been cloaked and observing us for nearly 100 years. In the modern era, this event is known as the Caroline Star event. What they want is unclear. They have 5 wormholes, each named after a kind of fortification. Inside of each is a hive, filled with drifter battleships and support cruisers. Highland Tukos warned us of a great invasion that never seemed to have come. However, at the center of each of these hives is a massive vortex of energy surrounding a pile of what may have been fragments taken from the observatories. Additionally, from the records that we have gained from the Triglavians, we have discovered that these drifters have entered into abyssal dead space and disrupted the Triglavian collective that had been hiding there since the end of the Second Jovian Empire, the very same empire that drove the sleepers off over 2,000 years ago. The Triglavians see the drifters as heirs to the Second Jovian Empire, and while they do not understand their artificial nature fully, they identify them as the ancient enemy Azdaja, or the ancient enemy Dragon. Now the drifters are arriving in force in Poshvin, and the Triglavians are warping spacetime to gain a foothold into K-space. This
Thanks.
ancient war has spilled out into the modern day as the Precursor crisis.
So that's it. That's the Who Are the Drifters video. It's the first of kind of 3 videos on this topic. Here, we'll just keep on going.
It's nice.
You guys like them? This one's Who Are the Triglavians 1. So this is about the messages from Zoria Triglav and using it to examine the Triglavian collective.
What is the nature of evil?
Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. That's AEA2.
Karma is a smart.
Actually, no, we'll stick with no, we'll go with AEA1 first.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and with the invasions long behind us and the domains of Poshvin established, I am here to begin to answer a question that I am frequently asked. Who are the Triglavians? The Triglavian Collective is the latest faction introduced in EVE Online. Originating from the Abyss, the largely mysterious collective has been gaining power and prominence in New Eden. A fact punctuated by the fall of Niarja to Concord control, along with the establishment of Poshvin. Now, nearly a year after Invasion Zenith, the Triglavians are still often a menace in any system connected to Poshvin via their new wormholes. However impactful the Trig are, their nature and drives are widely unknown and not completely understood. Many Capsuleers have mostly ignored the Triglavians until recently, and some have even resorted to spreading.
But see, this is the new reaction meta, right? Like, you're not, like, it's lame to react to other people's stuff because it's lazy content. But if I do it to my own stuff, then it's perfectly fine, right? Right?
Spreading bad information. Furthermore, there is no out-of-game canonical information about the Collective, with solid answers, as there is with nearly every other faction in the game. Everything that we understand about the Collective comes from broadcasted messages, data streams, recovered Triglavian technology, and intercepted messages via a device known as a semiosis console, recovered from certain Triglavian facilities. Anything said about them outside of this is brought to us by Concord, whose own motivations on this matter are dubious at best. But with a willingness to explore what is available to us,
I think that we can start to get a picture of these ancient outcasts.
While it may seem that the Triglavians are relatively recent phenomena, they are actually just a small part of an ongoing story that has been unfolding since 2006, a story I call the Precursor Crisis. This is something that I believe that we'll be discussing a lot on this channel.
The short of it is that while the modern Jovian Directorate has all but become extinct within the cluster, ancient survivors from the time of the fall of the Second Jovian Empire have begun emerging into our modern day. This has had a profound and increasing impact into the lives of everyone in New Eden, and a conflict older than any of the 4 remaining empires appears to be kicking off once again in the form of the Drifters versus the Triglavians. The Precursors have returned. The little brother makes the final sorrowful steps home. He is not welcome, and what that means may be a crisis for us all.
Real quick, the Triglavian language is actually just a font. Like, you can just convert it letter to letter. They're speaking a combination of English and Slavic.
For now, I will just point you to a 2-hour-long playlist that I've compiled a while back of every video CCP and Arataka Research Consortium has produced on this matter. In addition, I have compiled a document known as the Precursor Crisis document, which I have posted on Google Sheets, in which I have brought together all of the text that I could find so far related to the Precursor Crisis in the game. If you see something missing in this document, of course, let me know right away so I can add it.
So we have a lot to dig into to go into everything that we know about the Triglavian Collective, and much of their origins and motivations are still speculations, and thus this is going to have to be spread over several videos. For this video, we will explore the Collective through the lens of a Triglavian that you may know, the Detached Executive Troika for the Sublimation of Poshlost Flow, or as you may know them, Zoria Triglav.
Zoria is the most well-known Triglavian to us Empyrean Capsuleers. The 3 times the Collective hacked the billboards of New Eden, it was broadcasting messages from Zoria. Additionally, the topmost grade of Triglavian forces are named Zorias, as the Galentes would be presidential and Amarians be exalted. Zoria holds the title of the Detached Executive Troika for Sublimation of Poshlost Flow, and the vast majority of communications we have recovered logs from are either involving Zoria or about them. They report to a convocation of Triglav outside of the struggle, who together represent the will of the 3 Triglavian clades of Svarog, Perun, and Velez. We will talk more about the clades further in a little bit, but for now, you can think of them as the 3 sub-factions of the Triglavian Collective. All of this and more can be gathered by understanding their messages, or prayers to us.
Whether or not you want to heed their words is a decision I leave to the viewer.
The first We Are Zoria Triglav message, which was sent just prior to Invasion's Chapter 1 expansion, does a very good job of summarizing the Triglavians' positions. However, the only problem is that these messages are often cryptic, due to the Triglavians using Slavic terms and religious-sounding language to communicate their messages. So let's break it down and see what we can learn.
We are Zoria Triglavian.
We speak for the congregation of Triglav outside the struggle.
Each of the 3 messages begins this way. They are declaring who they are and by what authority they speak. A few things can already be noted. First, Zoria uses the pronoun we to describe themselves, and when speaking seem to have 3 voices mingled together, that of a male, female, and digital voice. It is unclear if this is to mean that the Triglavians have multiple consciousnesses, or infomorphs, within a single body, or if they're doing this as some sort of effect to show solidarity. Zoria's physical form is always depicted as a female body, and so this has led many to believe that the voices are either representing the 3 clades, or the 3 subtypes of Triglavians, the Neurania, Koshoi, and Nafka. Unfortunately, this is another deep and uncertain topic, so we'll leave this one for later. As far as the convocation of Triglav outside of the struggle, the Triglavians live in a state of constant conflict. The Abyss is resource-starved, and they've been trapped there for some time. Each clade and subclade is in competition with one another in something that they call the Proving. However, they also seem to recognize a shared destiny, and so have a grouping, or convocation, that functions to guide the collective and stand apart from the day-to-day internal squabbles. They are outside the struggle between the clades.
The word clade is borrowed from biology, meaning a group of organisms believed to have evolved from a common ancestor according to the principles of cladistics, an example being the great apes and human clade. The word itself is derived from Greek, Klados.
I can go back and say great apes versus. No, that's actually incorrect because humans are nested. It'd be closer to like monkeys and apes, or Homo, genus Homo. Anyway,
Meaning branch.
We are an emanation of the great.
We are an emanation of the clades of Perun, Velis, and Svarog.
now a few words on Slavic mythology and the role of earthly mythos in EVE Online. After the Eve Gate collapsed nearly 13,000 years ago, most of the knowledge and science of old Earth was lost. This time is known as the Dark Ages. However, each of the surviving empires from the Dark Ages maintained traditions using language from the old ways, like a fingerprint upon their culture, albeit warped and the original meanings lost. For the most part, this results in the use of ancient animals and mythos in the naming of ships and equipment, and you can explore the empire's past via the names that they cling on to in the modern day. For example, the ancient Jove have a tendency to use Greek language in their naming, and thus we get the Society of Conscious Thought ships, such as the Gnosis and Praxis, as well as the drifter names of Apollo, Artemis, Charybdis, Scylla, and more. The use of these cultural touchstones hint to a relationship between the drifters, Jovians, and the sleepers.
The Triglavians use Slavic mythology in their culture, which sets them apart from the other races. But that also means that better understanding of Slavic mythology may give us a better understanding as to the true nature of the Triglavians.
Zoria is the name of the three sisters that represent the morning, evening, and midnight stars. The threefold manifestation is reflected in the threefold nature of the Zoria we know. Additionally, the deity Triglav is a three-headed god who rules over the heaven, earth, and underworld. And wouldn't you know it, the three sub-deities of the Triglav are, as you might guess it, Svarog, Perun, and Veles. So here we have an agent of the convocation of Triglav, who's named after the three sisters, who serve a god whose name is the name of their collective. And this god has three heads, whose names are also the names of the three major sub-factions of the Clades.
Now don't get me started with that, but Ashtarothi, the three gods of the Triglav are actually Perun, Svarog, and Dazbog. And to your straw man, I say but Veles replaced Svarog later on. Which may also matter to our understanding of the Triglavians in ways that I'm not really willing to go into it right now. And this is as far as I'm willing to go in pretending that I know anything about Slavic mythology.
Hear the words of our prayer.
Hear the words of our prayer
Heed them.
and heed them.
Much like the Triglavians use Slavic naming to function symbolically within their culture, they also use religious terminology to mean decidedly non-religious things. In this case, the Triglavians often use the word prayer in their communication to mean some sort of formal message and often with a request.
Ancient domains beyond.
The ancient domains beyond the floor of Viraj were lost to us.
The ancient domains are known space, the 4,000 some odd star systems of the New Eden cluster, as opposed to whatever hellscape they have found themselves in the abyss. This line suggests that the Triglavians have lost the means to return to our space at some point. However, within the data streams, we have evidence that the Triglavians likely worked with the first Jovian Empire, and at least were aware of the second, which, according to Jovian records, collapsed about 2,000 years ago.
I say, according to Jovian records, because the fall of the Second Jovian Empire is one of the most mysterious times in EVE Online history, known only as the Shrouded Days.
Viraj means heaven in the Slavic tradition, and, like the Jovians, the Triglavians seem obsessed with the sacred nature of their mission. While we once believed that the flow of Viraj may mean the abyss itself, the fact that the F in flow is not capitalized when written seems to suggest that it is not a proper noun. The Triglavians also speak of the poshlost, or corrupt, or vile flow. This shows us that the flow in this case represents a path, or shared destiny, and shared goals. Likely this flow of Viraj is what keeps the convocation together, a unified understanding of shared purpose. We will be discussing the flow of Viraj and the poshlost flow quite a bit in the future.
Ancient domains have entered the flows.
This line is one of the reasons why we once suspected that the flow was the abyss itself. It has long since been speculated that the flow is the flow between the three conduits of the abyss. However, they have another name for these sites, namely conduit loop constructs. With that in mind, it would seem that they are saying that the intruders from our world have entered into their existence, their shared experience, or flow.
Intruders seek to corrupt the flow of Viraj and the domain of Bujan.
In the
Besides us, there are records of 3 other groups that have encountered the Triglavians in the Abyss. Each of them have a set of 6 data streams about them that help us understand the Triglavians' experiences and opinions about them. We also get the Triglavians' name for each of these 4 forces. The 4 groups, including us, are as follows. AEA, Ancient Enemy Azdaja, Drifter and Sleeper Forces. DAV, Deviant Automata, Rogue Drones. HFN, Hive-linked Foreign Narodnia, Sanchez Nation. And AFN, Augmented Foreign Narodnia, Empyreans, or us.
Their data streams describe their largely unfriendly encounters with each of these forces. However, the actual corrupting was done by the Hive-linked Foreign Narodnia, or Sanchez Nation. In other words, we can probably lay the blame on all of this invasion nonsense on Master Kuvakai himself. But more on that in another video.
The ancient enemy Azdaja must be extirpated.
Deviant Automata must conform or be extirpated.
Corrupted Narodnia must be extirpated. Human augmented Narodnia must prove the direction of their flow.
From here we can see the overall relationship with the Triglavians in each of these 4 factions. The term extirpate means to root out and destroy completely. The Sancha and the Drifters are beyond redemption. However, Rogue Drones and Empyrean Capsuleers are a bit more nuanced.
Narodnia
Moving with the flow may be fit to enter.
Narodnia without fitness will be expelled from the flow.
This describes their 2-step process for analyzing those of us Capsuleers whom they have encountered. Those who move with the flow of Virage, as in align with their goals and path, may or may not be fit to enter the domain of Buyan. Those who are within the flow of Virage but are unfit will be expelled.
The convocation of Triglav outside the struggle.
Invoke cladistic throwing.
Testing between like types has been invoked. The original proving conduits, or PvP sites in the Abyss, are shown as they say this.
Glorification for the fit and mortification for the
Unfold on the flow.
The fit will be glorified. The unfit will be mortified.
Triglav outside the struggle
Triglav outside the
will be
struggle.
glorified by you.
glorified.
Nothing can halt the flow of Virage.
Flow of Virage.
We speak for the convocation of Triglav outside the struggle.
We are Zoria Triglav.
We are sorry at Triglav.
And the ending of the first video is characteristically triumphant. And finally, the same formal phrasing as the opening, but in reverse. Prior to the end of Invasions, Zoria sent a total of 3 messages. Thankfully, the other 2 weren't quite as information dense as the first one, so we'll be able to work through them quickly enough. As the World Ark emerged for the first time in known space, in a site known as the World Ark Proving Conduit, which was laid out like a giant proving conduit as seen in the Abyss, we received the following.
Approaches liminality.
Things are going to progress into the next stage. The word liminality is Latin for threshold. It's also worth noting that some of the stronger forces within the Triglavians' invasion were known as liminal.
Commences.
This line helped lock in our understanding of the ancient domains as New Eden. It is describing the World Ark Proving Conduit.
Be glorified and enjoy the flow or be extirpated.
This should require no real analysis.
When things accelerated into Chapter 2, Zoria spoke for a 3rd time.
We are Zoria Triglav.
I mentioned that earlier. So the Triglavian collective, the clades of the collective are actually constantly fighting with each other over resources and to prove which one is best in a thing called the proving. This act is known as the struggle. So there is a body that exists outside of that is designed to kind of try to wrangle the entire effort of the Triglavian collective, and so they exist outside of the struggle. They are the convocation or grouping of Triglav that are outside of the struggle, outside of the normal conflict of proving that the Triglavians operate under.
We speak for the convocation of Triglav outside the struggle. Glorification awaits those fit to join the flow of Virage.
Liminal potential is defined among augmented Narodnia.
They have found the potential to progress with some of us.
We invoke a proving of Kybernauts in the ancient domains.
This is the first time that they've ever used the word Kybernauts to mean friendly capsuleers.
Guide and ground the flow, and be fit for glorification. Obstruct and mortify the flow, and you will be extirpated.
Aid in our efforts, and you will be fit for glorification. Get in our way or stop our progress, and you will be destroyed.
We speak for the convocation of Triglav outside the struggle. We are Zoria Triglav.
So who or what is Zoria Triglav? What do the Triglavians really want? And what exactly do the Drifters and Sancha have to do with any of this? Unfortunately, those questions and more will have to wait for future videos where we explore the other things that we know and have collected about the Triglavian collective and other pieces of the Precursor crisis. I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching this video.
Boom. All right, guys. I'm going to finish hacking this site, and then we're probably going to wrap it up. I've got two more. I've gone through every single one of these sites, so maybe we'll get through we'll see if I can get through the two remaining. My appointment's at the top of the hour, but it's also like online, so yeah. I also have one more where I specifically go into the AEA data streams, which is about the ancient enemy Asdaja, or the Drifters. I do have a video on Sancha and on the rogue drones as well, but I think those are more informal, not as well like polished as these were. Those were just like conversations on stream. That said, the story, so like the rogue drones and the Sancha are where the tinfoil really come in. I'll put it that way, right? Like the Drifters are pretty straightforward. They see the Drifters. They think that they're part of the Second Jovian Empire. They call them an enemy. They kill them. They try to kill them. They fail to kill them. They do some research to develop a way to fight them. They uncover or unearth an ancient design from a bygone era, known as an ancient design from a bygone era that they put into implementation. I think it was Veles Clade. In fact, specifically the Leshak subclade of the Veles Clade found this device, or this weapon, the 726 classification clade ship, which we know as the Leshak. That was effective against the Drifters, so they rolled it out. However, they also did analysis against the Drifters, and they figured out that the Drifters weren't necessarily coming from where they said where they would expect from the second. They weren't coming from the physical location where the Second Jovian Empire was, and the organizational structure of the Drifters was not consistent with the Second Jovian Empire, and they referred to it as they were in a forbidden dominance arrangement, which we still don't know fully what that means. I assume it's because they've enslaved the Sleepers. Right, because the Circadian Seekers, or rather the Autothisian Lancer type things, are in the Abyss with them. So I think that's what they're detecting, is that like some of them are enslaved, and the Drifters, or the The Triglavians don't really like enslavement per se. But either way, they don't like the drifters. That's very straightforward. But the Sancha and the rogue drones are definitely where the tinfoils start to come in. Especially, like, the tinfoil... Well, in both of those situations, my theory about the rogue drones and about the drifter... Or Sancha... Hold on. My theory about them is actually not one that a lot of people agree on. I think that they're pretty solid. People haven't been able to prove them to, otherwise. I feel like maybe people don't want to believe it because it's like the less, like, I don't know, stable answers. Basically, I think that the short of it is, I think that part of the Svarog clade, specifically the Dazbog subclade of the Svarog clade, has become corrupted by Sancha. And I also feel like the rogue drones are the ones that developed filament technology, and therefore they're the ones that helped the Triglavians make it out of the abyss. So.
Warp drive active.
Yeah, although it's funny because the word Troika, literally, like, part of its definition is an imbalance. It's like a leadership cast of that's of three unbalanced positions of power. But yeah, no. One of the ways that I think that, or one of the things that seems to be coming out of the Triglavians is that the Triglavians, where the Seekers and the Sleepers and the Drifters represent the static faction, the Triglavians seem to be closer aligned with the modifiers side, with their dramatic mutations and bioadaptation and random mutations, etc., etc. So, but we'll have to see how that plays out, right? But I've been Ashrothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put even into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. I hope that you all got something out of today. I hope that, if nothing else, you guys enjoyed coming here and hanging out together and watching me get really sad at this one system and how many Guristas data and relic sites I got. It was funny. Everybody had a good laugh. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everybody learned everything. If you like what I do, if you like those videos that I've just played, like, let's real talk, okay? Shtick aside. This is like my job. You know, I take care of my son who has autism, so like that's my kind of full-time thing. And this not only gives me the opportunity to make Eve content for a living, which is fucking awesome, but it also means that I have the time and flexibility that I need to take care of my son. You know, if I was working a normal job, I would not be able to take a day off when I wanted to. I wouldn't be able to start late. I wouldn't be able to get off at, 3 o'clock in time for my son to get off school. So you guys provide a lot for me in your donations. And on the other hand, I also put a lot of work into those videos, especially the videos that you just saw, the ones that are edited in the back line. Like I spent, arguably I spent like a year writing the first writing, but like I put a lot of effort into making sure all my details are right, talking to people, doing my research, just rereading and rereading all of the stuff to try to suss out like meaning. And get together the videos and edit it all up. I learned video editing in order to do all this, all that stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, if you enjoy it, thank you. But in order to make this possible, it's only possible for me to be able to dedicate the time I do because of your guys' support. So please consider either becoming a member of on YouTube and therefore getting all those cool emotes, or if you want to help, the best way to do it, honestly, is to check out my Patreon and become a new supporter. So those people are the ones that give me the stability that I need to actually be able to do what I want, you know? And so I know it's the whole like give me money thing and all that stuff, but I do want to just point out like, and it seems almost cliche, but I am the definition of truly blessed thanks to you guys. And I do my best to never forget that. So thank you guys either way. And honestly, even if you can't give whatever it is, like please do not like break yourself or do anything that is a strain or anything like that, or feel bad if you can't. Coming, participating, watching the videos, liking them, sharing them with others, getting it out there. These are huge. These are huge. Like night and day huge. The difference between when people are sharing it around versus not, for example. So thank you guys, those of you who do that and who comment on the videos and stuff. Yesterday, I said that anybody who's... was it yesterday? Sorry, the day before. I said the people... I was going to give 200 plex to the next couple of videos to the people who commented on it. And I specifically said, I was like, not this video, not the live, but it'd have to be the recording. But then everybody commented on the live. And then my editing software... So YouTube's editor is great, but also not really working that well. So, and then I finally got Ara Danica to try, and apparently we found out that it wasn't just me. So I'm probably going to have to go back, and that's why the video didn't come out yesterday or the day before. Have to figure out how we can actually edit these things in a way that doesn't lock up my entire computer or just break it halfway through editing. But the long story short is enough people commented on the live video that I'm going to count it. So what we're going to do is the next couple of videos that come out, we're going to do the comment thing. It'll say it on the video, but also the live video from yesterday. So if you want to go back to the live video, it should be available on my live feeds, which, by the way, that's another piece, which is that, you know, I've been going back and forth about this whole VOD footage up thing. Turns out the live footage is like a whole separate piece than the not live made footage. So I actually don't have to worry about it. So I'm just going to keep them live, or I'm going to keep them as public, so they're still there for everybody. And so yeah, go back to the previous video if you haven't already from 2 days ago and comment on it and get your chance to win 200 plex. Also, the winners from the Stargate competition, I've gotten everybody in. And so I'll be contacting the winners probably today, starting today, to start coordinating to get them to select skins. Yeah, but that about wraps things up. I'm glad that you guys get a lot out of it. A lot. I'm really, really glad. When I first started this, people didn't like. People would be very disparaging of me for talking about the lore. Right? I was kind of a pariah for it. So just the fact that watching the community change their opinions over the last few years has been extremely rewarding, and I can only hope that I was the smallest piece of all of that. And I also would like to, at the same time, bring up some of the other true titans of the lore that you guys should pay attention to, including Baleful Dysnomia or Arcia Elkin, Elizabeth, and Mark726 and his Eve Travel, as well as the Eve Reader podcast. There are so many people, Makoto Priano and Arataka Research Consortium, there are so many people that are actively caring about the lore and doing stuff. Discourse from Arataka has restarted and is doing a great job. So it's worth getting into, guys. Don't believe the lies. The lore has always been here. The story has been ongoing. And the player base has just not been paying attention. But I'd welcome you all to come with me on this journey down the rabbit hole. Also, if you really want to join us, then you can also join the Convocation of Empyreans. We are helping to maximize player engagement with EVE Online, as well as defending the southern half of the war zone from the state, for defending it for the Federation. So if you want to get in faction warfare, if you want to learn how to play the game, if you want to be part of a learning environment, or if you want to help me help others, go ahead and join that Discord. If you want to check out my videos, or see when my videos come out or live, join that Discord and flag yourself open for YouTube. Go to the website and sign up, become part of the Convocation of Empyreans. You can do it with an alt, make a new alt, join the Galente Federation. You could probably still do the 7 days, whatever, but there's plenty of opportunities. Reach out. I'm here to help. But I should be back tomorrow. I'm saying should, so that way the world doesn't fall apart. But until then, once again, I have been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and I'll see you in space. Wait. Almost did it wrong. I have a list to read. I do want to thank my co-designers, Ara Danica the Queen, Black Rose Noble, Dejat Lamont, Golden Age Stories, Midnight Space Monkey, Not Just Fun, Serenolin with No Eyes, Ciliana Vilesh, Talking Stations, Nephilim, Grendel, and Zolnex, as well as my immortal tier patron, Ebo Leet. You guys rock. And Dejat Lamont, if you're here, you told me that you put in your entry for the contest, but I don't think I got it. So, if you hear this, message me. All right, 07, guys.
Bring on the wrecking machine.
Speaking of the bus, contribute to the Magic School Bus. Donate to Mike Azariah. For every city